One of the weapons to get a significant buff in Update 2.1.1 for BattleBit was the AS Val Carbine, a suppressed menace that long held a reputation in the playtesting stage of the game for being the gun to use. But it got smacked heavily with the Nerf bat a while back. But has the weapon now returned to its former glory? G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're taking a look at the AS Val Carbine in BattleBit Remastered. So folks, for the uninitiated to our channel, here's how today's video is going to be laid out for you all. We're going to start off with a breakdown of the AS Val's stats, talking to the weapon's pros and cons that inform its overall behavior. We'll then follow up with getting into some specific tips and tricks for using the AS Val to the best of its abilities in-game, and then we'll finally wrap up with some discussion around attachment options and how you can best build the AS Val for amazing performance in-game. Once again, a big thank you goes out to BattleBit community member Oxygen, whose tools and stat correlation has done a lot to inform these weapon reviews in the long run. But alright, let's get straight into the AS Val and what it brings to the table. So folks, a little forewarning before we get into this one here today. It's gonna feel a lot like deja vu if you've watched our Honey Badger review that we released a couple of weeks ago. The AS Val and the Honey Badger in its old form were very similar in design, but post-update, they are drastically different. So if you've watched that old Honey Badger review and you hear me comparing the AS Val to the Honey Badger as if they're totally different weapons, that's why. But getting into the damage for the AS Val itself, we are looking at a maximum damage of 32 out of the 41 meter mark, dropping off to a minimum damage of 8 at the 199 meter mark. And again, this damage number should look pretty familiar to you because it's what the Honey Badger featured before its update, which gives the Val some very fun party tricks to work with. Again, the 32 maximum damage doesn't cross the 3 bullets kill threshold, but it does net us some very impressive damage consistency up to the medium armor set. Against the wider armory, it's rare to see a weapon that fires this fast maintain that 4-shot kill against normal armors, and when you do get something like that, it's something to hold on to very tightly. While it doesn't do much in the way of consistency against exo armor players in particular, which is pretty rough on the weapon's magazine economy, more on that shortly, it's going to feel pretty potent against 99% of the players that you're going to face in the game. And the same can be said for the potency in the headshot department, maintaining a juicy 3-shot kill on all targets unless they are wearing an exo helmet. And even then, the exo helmet will only push the bullet to kill requirement to 4. Which is obviously a surefire improvement by comparison to going for body shots with the weapon. We do start to see those normal armor sets start to punish us quite heavily as we move out to the 98 meter mark, so it's worth tempering your expectations there and staying nice and close with the Val where possible. With a fire rate of 800 rounds per minute or 13.33 rounds per second, we aren't dealing with the gold standard of rate of fire out there in BattleBit, not by a long shot, but we're also not dealing with a snail here either. A pretty happy middle ground that gives the Val the teeth it needs to play pretty aggressively. And speaking of teeth here, let's find out just how savage the Val's chompers are and go over the time to kill. Once again, the graphs and the numbers here are going to look identical to that of the old Honey Badger that we discussed last time because, well, it features the same damage and the same rate of fire. But don't get me wrong, I had a lot of good things to say about that time to kill when we reviewed the Honey Badger, and that continues with the AS Val here as well, sporting a 225 millisecond time to kill as a best case scenario against body shots. We are greeted by a slightly sharper bite when compared to the baseline that is set by some of the other assault rifles in the game. I mean, hell, the AS Val will even hold its own against some of the SMGs in the game as well, especially when you introduce headshots into the mix and start nailing that gorgeous 150 millisecond time to kill. And as we hinted at before, it maintains a far better deal for you as well as you come across any exo armor players as well. So yeah, in the right hands, the Val comes through in a way that makes it a very vicious fighter. Unfortunately, as you extend the range out, you see that time to kill bloom pretty badly, but that's to be expected with a weapon of this type at this point, I think, so no surprises there. As always, just want to be clear in mentioning that these time to kill stats are theoretical in nature, assuming that all bullets will either hit the chest or the head area sequentially with 100% accuracy and no bullet travel time. Obviously, the further a target is from you, the less likely you are to be 100% accurate as well, so just keep that in mind when factoring these numbers here. Muzzle velocity wise, we are sitting with a 440 meters per second muzzle velocity, not the greatest in the context of the wider game, but it's not as horrible as it sounds either. You'll just need to lead targets a little bit sooner, but it's manageable. Wrapping things up here, let's quickly get into the handling of the AS Val. And this is where the AS Val saw its love from the developers in the recent update. And all of it was pretty much for the better. Kicking off with the recoil here, we are greeted by a dominant vertical kick of 1.50 with a less dominant but still present horizontal kick of 1.20. Some of you will remember that the AS Val used to sport a whopping 1.9 horizontal kick, similar to that of the Honey Badger that we just reviewed. So obviously, looking to where we are now, let's just say that the difference does feel like it's night and day. The design of the FAL now feels so much more consistent and rewarding to use, as it should do, noting its smaller magazine size. It feels like it's far less likely to just randomly punch your aim off, thus hurting the magazine economy even further than it already is with that 20 round mag by default. As I said, the horizontal recoil ain't nothing, it's still here to play, but it's far more manageable. Accuracy-wise, the Val also copped an incredibly generous buff, which saw it amped from 68.75 to a whopping 75.00 accuracy. That puts it up there in the assault rifle category now of accuracy, and man, does it do a lot in combination with the recoil changes to really put the weapon on the radar of being a solid pick again. In fact, it completely changes the feel of the weapon in a really good way, and it sort of puts it in that category of having a slightly stronger recoil kick by comparison to other weapons there, but it has a really rewarding accuracy dispersion should you be able to control that recoil. The AS Val has very much returned to being one of the smoother operators under pressure, and it feels good. Which is where we find ourselves dealing with the harsh reality that comes with the weapon's 20 round mag. It's reload time. And look, while a default reload speed of 3.33 seconds is far from the longest reload in the game, it can feel like an eternity when you're trying to do it with a weapon that is most likely going to see you reloading after every kill, every second or third kill if you're lucky, and a weapon that's designed to be used in CQC. And that's not out of choice, by the way, that's out of necessity thanks to the way the weapon's built. Again, there's far worse out there, but you're going to be seeing the reload animation a lot here when using the AS Val. Thankfully, the quick reload does get us down to 2.71 seconds, but the long reload lies there in wait with a 4.70 second reload time, which will particularly sting if you get things wrong. So just make sure you stay on top of those reloads here. Mobility-wise, we are greeted once again by identical stats that were present on the Honey Badger, a 200 millisecond ADS time with a 1.05 times run speed, really letting the AS Val lean into that more aggressive playstyle with little issue. Throw in the 1 second draw speed, and that is the weapon from top to bottom. And in turn, folks, if I was to sum up the AS Val in any particular way now that we've seen these balancing changes hit it and the Honey Badger in particular, it's that the AS Val now feels like where the Honey Badger should have been in its previous form. A hefty damage model with a slightly heftier recoil pattern and a shorter magazine, all pointing towards an aggressive, yet controllable, almost guerrilla warfare playstyle. You know, close the gap on a kill, get a kill or two, reload or get out, rinse and repeat. And I know I made specific call out to that with the Honey Badger review because again that's sort of how the Honey Badger played as well. Only now the FAL feels like the Honey Badger, but far better in the controllability department. And having spent some time with the AS Val since the update, you can very much feel like that's a gap that the weapon is looking to fill in the game's arsenal, and truth be told, it does it very well. With its revitalized recoil and accuracy stats, it doesn't feel like a chore to make it work. It actually feels, enjoyable to use, which is a great step in the right direction. There's something oddly satisfying about getting on a flank with the Val and its integrated suppressor, and just slowly but surely cutting it through the enemy squad that's in front of you. Picking out that key target, taking him out nice and quietly, rinsing and repeating. And leaning into the stealthy element of the AS Val can be very satisfying to do so indeed. But that does reiterate the focus on flanking. With the Val, you need to be in a position to control the pacing of engagements that you face, in a position that can let you dictate the terms of the fights that you get into. And while that is certainly true for every weapon in BattleBit Remastered, I feel like it's more important for weapons like the FAL over others. It may only sport 10 rounds less than most of the other weapons in the game per mag, but that can mean a world of difference here between you being ready or not for the next player that happens to come around a corner. So yeah, having that ability to control when and where fights are going to happen here is key in that respect, and being the initiator with flanking is going to be a huge step to you being able to do that regularly. Obviously, minimizing the amount of bullets that you use to kill a target is going to be key with a weapon of a shorter mag as well, so going for headshots here is also incredibly rewarding, but there is also a significant time to kill benefit that comes from it too, so again, go for headshots here. But Also with the AS Val, and this may be a slightly controversial tip here, but I actually recommend doing the quick mag drop reload with the weapon pretty often here. For one, there's a good chance that you'll be disconnected from ally covering fire when you're reloading, which means that, well, enemies will have an ample opportunity to come get you. But also, there's a good chance that you'll be disconnected from allied support players, which means less ammo boxes around for you to resupply on. And well, to me, getting that time back with the reload and dropping what I can almost always guarantee is going to be a mostly empty magazine is almost always going to be worth than risking a outright death. There are other ways to improve the reload time, which we are going to go over in a brief moment here, but I'm still a huge fan of using the quick reload on this weapon to really keep its readiness at an all-time high. It's saved me more times than I could care to admit, quite frankly. But okay, that puts us onto the attachment options for today's video and really cranking the AS Val to 11. And naturally, we're going to be all about leaning into that aggressive flanker role with the AS Val here today, really looking to mitigate against the weapon's magazine size by, you guessed it, improving the reload speed. Obviously, the 1x reflex sight of your choosing continues to be the pick for the AS Val here today. Again, I get that there are some of you out there that like engaging at medium distances, but this ain't the play here today, folks. Don't do it. No point in trying to fit a square peg into a round hole by putting a medium range scope on an AS Val. Just no, don't do it. No barrel choice once again here today thanks to the presence of an integrated suppressor, so our grip is going to be our sole contributor to mitigating the weapon's recoil, and that today is going to be the B25 URK grip. Once again, the goal here is to really help in improving that reload speed as best we can. There is a small temptation sitting in the back of my mind here to run the BCM gunfighter grip here to, really focus in on that horizontal recoil, but ultimately the weapon feels controllable enough for me here to focus on the reload speed in particular, and I think that the end result is for the better. And speaking of the reload speed here, this is where we run the quick A magazine on the weapon. It's a no-brainer, really, and in combination with the B25 URK grip, it actually gets the base reload speed down to approximately 2.5 seconds, I believe, which is a pretty sweet deal on the weapon. Throw the weapon on the assault class or do a mag drop reload on top of it, and you are treated to one sweet weapon that feels as though it can quickly zip between targets despite its shorter magazine size. And folks, with all of that said, that is going to wrap up today's review of the AS Val Carbine in BattleBit Remastered. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the weapon. Have you been enjoying it? Have you disliked it? Let us know. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to backhand the like button as it does go a long way to supporting the channel. And if you're someone who's new here in the process, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well to stay up to date with all future BattleBit Remastered content that we're putting out. It would be great to have your company for the long run. Also be sure to check out our links in the description down below, including our Twitch channel where we stream 3 times a week. Once again guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care guys, have a good one.